This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us this President's Day, February 15th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, what's next for former President Donald Trump after his acquittal this weekend by the Senate in his second impeachment trial? We're going to take a look at what could be ahead for his future. The growing controversy over transgender athletes in girls and women's sports. Would letting those athletes compete on girls and women's teams destroy those sports, as critics are warning? Cancel culture strikes again, this time in Hollywood, against the star of a major television series, and a pro-life organization is banned from YouTube. And revival in Florida, as many find salvation and deliverance from addiction at worship leader Sean Foyt's latest events. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to begin this half hour with the future of former President Donald Trump after his second impeachment trial ended in an acquittal Saturday. In the end, 7 Republicans voted to convict him, but that wasn't nearly enough to reach the 2/3 necessary to come to a verdict against him. CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson brings us the story from Washington.
While the impeachment trial might be over, the former president could still face criminal charges for his role in the January 6th attack.
He did not do his job. He didn't take steps so federal law could be faithfully executed and order restored. No. Instead, according to public reports, he watched television happily, as the chaos unfolded.
Immediately after the vote, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell took to the Senate floor to condemn President Trump's actions, while still insisting that impeaching a former president is unconstitutional.
If President Trump were still in office, I would have carefully considered whether the House managers proved their specific charge.
Democrats, however, argued it was McConnell's decision not to start the trial until Trump left office.
It was a very disingenuous speech, and I say that regretfully because I always want to be able to work with the leadership of the other party.
7 GOP senators voted with 48 Democrats and 2 independents in favor of conviction. Following the vote, the Louisiana Statute GOP unanimously voted to censure Senator Bill Cassidy for his vote.
Our Constitution and our country is more important than any one person. I voted to convict President Trump because he is guilty.
In a statement Saturday, President Biden said that violence and extremism have no place in America and that we must all defend the truth and defeat the lies. Senator Lindsey Graham told Fox News he spoke with former President Trump after the trial.
He's ready to move on and rebuild the Republican Party. He's excited about 2022. He's mad at some folks, but I understand that.
Following the acquittal, Trump released a statement saying the movement to make America great again has only just begun. There was nothing about what he might do next or whether he'll seek office again. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Abigail, thank you. Turning now to the weather. Several states across America's South are seeing colder temperatures than they've seen in a long time, along with some crippling ice storms. There are fears the power grids in many states could buckle. Here's a look at the forecast from AccuWeather.
Continue to track this winter storm that's moving coast to coast, impacting millions of people. Winter storm warnings all the way down to South Texas, extending their way into parts of New England. On top of that, there is also the threat of ice, which is where we do have the threat of an ice storm. We do have ice storm warnings out there, but some in the Lone Star State digging out today after picking up over a half of a foot of snow from Texas into parts of Oklahoma. And that's not the end of it. We have plenty of cold out there today in addition to that snow that's going to be pushing its way on east. So temperatures for today, definitely the freezer door is open, 13 degrees, the high temperature in Dallas. And if you think that's bad, check out the overnight low temperatures here. We are going down to the single digits to some spots below zero tonight. Records are going to be broken here across the south central U.S. Wichita, Kansas, for example, we're forecasting a low of 12 degrees below zero. Now, that's not the end of it. We're going to track this storm that's been moving from the northwest into the central plains, eventually dealing with some snow here in the Midwest and also into New England. And this is going to be enough to cause major travel problems here. There will be a number of areas that see over a half of a foot of snow. Chicago, for example, we're forecasting 6 to 10 inches of snow. This is through Tuesday morning. Now you're looking at a forecast here around Nashville, about 1 to 3 inches. Might not seem bad, but Nashville is one of those areas that we're very concerned about that ice. We'll get to that in just a moment. 3 to 6 inches in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 6 to 10 there in Cleveland. Even as you work your way into New England, Rutland, Vermont, Burlington, 8 to 12 inches of snow. On top of the snow threat, we also have that ice threat. I mentioned Nashville. In that significant ice area, there could be spots that see upwards of over a half of an inch of ice. We're going to be watching and keeping you posted on the latest. We'll send it back to you.
Thank you. The Mississippi Senate has passed a bill that would ban transgender athletes from competing in girls' or women's sports. And Tennessee Governor Bill Lee warns transgender girls should be banned from playing on middle and high school sports teams, or they will, quote, destroy women's sports. Those moves come after President Joe Biden signed an executive order January 20th banning discrimination based on gender identity in school sports and elsewhere. But critics argue that order could end girls' sports as we know them. Heather Sells has the story.
On Inauguration Day, Kamala Harris embodied what girls and women across the country have long dreamed, a woman vice president. Hours later, however, President Biden signed an executive order that crushed girls' and women's rights. Using detailed, explicit language, he ordered that children be allowed access to the restroom, locker room, and sports team of their choosing. Their gender, now described as gender identity, would have no consequence.
It's turning equality upside down. The entire reason we have separate male and female locker rooms and sports teams is that people with male and female bodies should have a certain amount of privacy and safety and fairness in competition.
LGBTQ advocates say the order supports equality and ends discrimination against people who identify as transgender. But conservatives and some feminists have been crying foul using the hashtag Biden erased women. The Women's Liberation Front called the order a heartbreaking message to women and girls that their government does not view them as worthy of consideration and is not willing to recognize them as a discrete class. Others view it as a First Amendment violation.
This is a show of force. This is about showing who's in control and that dissent is punished.
Federal agencies have 100 days to determine how to implement the order. For any business, faith-based organization, or school receiving federal funding, opposing it could be a costly decision. There's also concern the order could confuse children and what it would mean for girls in sports.
We've watched as young female athletes have lost out on medals, on podium spots, on championship opportunities.
Attorney Christiana Holcomb represents 3 female high school track stars who sued the state of Connecticut after being forced to compete against biological boys. Under President Trump, the Department of Education defended them, and that would likely now change. Biden's executive order seeks to build on the 2020 Supreme Court ruling that redefined sex discrimination to include gender identity, but only in cases of employment. Holcomb says the president's order contradicts Title IX, the historic law that paved the way for sports equality in 1972.
Title IX is clear that young women deserve to compete on a level playing field. The whole reason we have women's sports as a separate category is because of those physical differences between the sexes.
It's now wait and see to find out how this executive order will play out among federal agencies like education and labor. States are also debating gender with a host of new bills on sports and transgender medicine. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well-known pastor and television preacher Dr. Frederick K.C. Price has died after battling COVID-19. He was the founder of the Crenshaw Christian Center based in Los Angeles, California. Price wrote more than 50 books on faith, healing, prosperity, and the Holy Spirit. Besides his church, he also founded several schools for ministry and formal education at the Crenshaw campus. Price and his wife Betty were married for 67 years. Dr. Price was 89 years old. Coming up, cancel culture strikes again, this time in Hollywood and against a pro-life organization. We'll share what happened when we come back.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30. Your news channel, your shows, the stories you care about. Anytime you want, anywhere you want. Download the CBN News app today.
Cancel culture is striking again, both in Hollywood and from big tech. Here to share more about what happened in these cases is Dan Andros of FaithWire.com. So one of the stars of a very popular Star Wars television series now has a movie deal after getting fired. What happened?
Yeah, that's right, Ephraim. Well, Gina Carano, who plays Cara Dune on the hit series The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, was dropped by Lucasfilm and her talent agency after a tweet that she posted that warned of the dangers of dehumanizing people because of the views they are. It used a Nazi comparison, and so they dropped her. The upside of that was she was picked up by Ben Shapiro's The Daily Wire, and they announced that they would be producing a feature film with her that starred her and was produced by her. But her tweet was a meme from that had warned about how Nazis normalized anti-Semitism, and that's what ultimately made it easy for them to round people up. And so she just warned that, hey, we're dehumanizing people for what they think, what they view, who they are, and that's not good. And so that apparently was the last straw, because this dates back to her history of tweeting conservative things. She's a fan of the Babylon Bee. She just refused to put in, they were after her for a long time to put her pronouns in her bio, and she hadn't done it. She just didn't want to cave to the mob for that. So finally, she just put in beep, bop, boop in her bio as kind of just like a not wanting to cave to bullies. And that angered Disney and Lucasfilm. And so they were apparently just looking for a reason to drop her. So it was this long history of conservative tweets that didn't really go along with the leftist playbook that seemed to anger Lucasfilm and Disney Plus.
Now, many fans and critics are pointing at Pedro Pascal because of the star of that series. Pedro Pascal had posted a controversial photo but did not get fired. What's the story there?
Yeah, well, Twitter sleuths, of course, once Gina got fired, look back at other actors and what they'd posted, because it's obviously common that people on the left refer to President Trump as Hitler or Nazi. That was something that frequently happened. And Pascal, who plays Mando on that series, in 2018, during the immigration debate, tweeted a meme that showed a picture of Jews behind bars, and it said Nazi Germany 1944. Then it showed kids behind bars, and it said America 2018. he didn't get any reprimands for that. He wasn't fired. No one even mentioned it, even though the picture, it turns out, of kids in American cages supposedly isn't from America. It's Palestinian kids in the Middle East, and it's not from 2018. It's from 2010, so it wasn't even correct information.
Now, YouTube also made some news when it removed the videos of the pro-life group LifeSite News. What can you tell us about that?
Well, they're the latest ones to get deleted from YouTube. Conservatives kind of pointing to this censorship, and they were banned for allegedly putting COVID-19 misinformation out. Now, YouTube has a policy that if you put any COVID information that goes against information from the WHO or the CDC, they will put a strike on you. And apparently LifeSite knew this and got a couple strikes, but continued. Back in November, they posted a video that caused them to be banned for 1 week. It was labeled medical misinformation. It was an interview with a doctor, but apparently they didn't like that doctor. And then later that same month, this was back in November, they were suspended over a video titled "Catholic Christian Traditions to Instill Faith in Your Kids." It's not clear what was in that video that labeled that medical misinformation, but ultimately they got a strike for that. And so then recently they had another violation, which is not clear what the video was, but it did lead them to be banned. LifeSite says they were prepared for this. They downloaded all their videos and are putting them on other platforms.
All right, Dan Andros with faithwire.com. Thank you so much. I want to remind you can hear more about other important topics in today's culture on FaithWire. You can watch it on the CBN News Channel. It begins this evening at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Still ahead, a look at the ideology known as Christian nationalism and why some Christian leaders are speaking out against it. We're going to have that story for you coming up next.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Watch On the Home Front today at 2:30.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
When the Capitol invasion took place on January 6, some people were waving Jesus flags and praying in the Senate chamber. Those actions by the mob made the horror of the invasion even more troubling. They reflect a political ideology known as Christian nationalism run amok. So what exactly is it? And how did it become so dangerous? Here again is Heather Sells.
On January 6th, thousands of Christians came to Washington to support President Donald Trump and to pray. Later, however, many unwittingly found themselves in a crowd that would march on the Capitol and eventually breach the building. leaving 2 dead and more than 100 police officers injured.
I think it's the most shocking failure of security imaginable.
Many, including Capitol Police and Congressman Adam Kinzinger, described what felt like spiritual warfare.
I just felt a real darkness over this place, like a real evil.
Disobeying and assaulting police is a sin, whether it's done by Antifa or by angry Republicans.
Doubly disturbing, the mob's use of Christian symbols, such as these flags and praying in the Senate chamber. Fair warning, this video is hard to watch.
Jesus Christ, we invoke your name. Amen. Amen.
Let's all say a prayer in this sacred space.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for gracing us with this opportunity.
Christian leaders have been quick to condemn the display.
There is no such thing as a righteous riot. It is the equivalent of someone breaking into a bank and asking God to bless the heist. This is a fringe, radical group with a religious zeal that comes with a myopic worldview.
To understand how and why this could happen, Georgetown professor and InterVarsity Press author Paul Miller says it's important to understand Christian nationalism.
Nationalism is very popular on the political right. It has eclipsed what I would call conservatism. Christian nationalism as a political ideology is not drawn directly from the Bible. It borrows a lot of Christian words and symbols and rhetoric, which is why it can be confusing for some Christians.
Christian nationalism is different from patriotism or love of country. It is a political view that asserts that the U.S. was and must remain a Christian nation, with other faiths taking a back seat on issues like religious liberty.
Religious liberty, to be true and consistent, needs to be religious liberty for everyone. It's not religious liberty for me, but not for thee.
Southern Baptist Albert Mohler warns against nationalism infused with any racial superiority, or that becomes an idol in our lives and can lead us away from our faith.
That kind of nationalism, even though it may claim a religious identity up front, it will eventually show itself to be idolatrous. If it requires me to deny Christ or forbids me to follow Christ obediently, then I will no longer pledge allegiance to that flag. I have no ultimate allegiance to that flag.
Conspiracy theories can also fuel Christian nationalism, and we've seen them seep into some evangelical circles. Half of U.S. Protestant pastors report it's entered their churches, according to new research by Lifeway. It's why leaders are calling on their flocks to search out the truth.
You should be able to validate what you share, what you spread.
When we're gullible and easily fooled, when we're the people who are posting conspiracies and the next thing saying, oh, the resurrection's true, all those conspiracies are too, it undermines our witness.
Miller encourages pastors to help their congregations focus on their heavenly citizenship above all else. Suarez says that can apply to the prophetic world as well.
I need to make sure that as a believer, as a Christian, that I'm more kingdom-minded than I am American-minded. We need to, as prophetic people, we need to re-examine and wonder, why is it that we're only getting prophetic words about American elections?
Ultimately, the local church can provide what many have lost, which is part of what's fueling political extremism.
There are many people in America who feel lonely, isolated, alienated, and in that isolation, they're gravitating towards the conspiracy theories, they're gravitating towards perhaps militia movements, they're gravitating towards extremer ideologies like nationalism because it gives them a sense of belonging and purpose.
That belonging is harder to find in a pandemic, yet may be more important than ever. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Coming up, worship leader Sean Foyt reporting salvations and deliverances from addiction at his team's latest events in Florida. We're going to bring you that story when we come back.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're gonna bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Welcome back to CBN Newswatch. Worship leader Sean Foyt prayed with men and women seeking freedom from addiction at his Let Us Worship events in Florida this weekend. Foyt reported deliverance from drugs, sex, porn addiction, and bondage, and many also gathered to pray for salvation. Foyt said a fresh sound of unity, hope, and revival was captured last night for America. God is moving. Foyt's Let Us Worship tour began last summer as a way to bring hope and joy to a deeply divided America and to fight for the constitutional freedom of religion. Time now for your Monday motivation, and today I leave you with this message to jumpstart your week. What's inside you is greater than what's in front of you. Don't be moved by what you see. Instead, close your eyes and be reminded of what God sees. Where you see ugly, He sees beauty. Where you see death, He sees life. And where you see pain, He sees peace. Again, what's inside you is always greater than what's in front of you. With that word, I encourage you to make today a marvelous Monday and be sure to have yourself a wonderful week on purpose. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. Remember, you can find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us at that address right there on your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here, same time tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye. God bless.